This weapon is your life. That's what Obi-Wan said to me, but you can have it, Padme, because I would rather run away together. The first part was an accurate quote. Yes. The rest was my interpretation.
Yes, Master. I try, Master. I'm sorry, Master.
Welcome back, everybody, to another Happy Landing. Tanner and I are here. This is a review of Season 1 of the Clone Wars television show, as well as a little bit of Star Wars news we're going to touch on. Before we get too far into it, thank you to the Movie Meal patrons who support the whole channel as a whole. We really appreciate it. Steve, Kimberly, Karen, you guys are amazing. Go get some Movie Meals merch, all linked in the description. You can find some great stuff over there. And we got lots of great videos that have been popping up. Suicide Squad reactions, reaction to the new Space Jam, a new Legacy trailer. Plenty of stuff up on the docket right now. Falcon Winter Soldier should be up soon, or multiple. I don't know how many will be up by the time this gets up, but they'll be there or there. As well as you can find us on the Movie Meal Podcast Network. If you just search that, you'll find another Happy Landing as well as some long form reviews. So let's get into it. Let's start with the news, because there was a little bit of Star Wars news. He says I'm wearing Tanner's favorite movie shirt right now, The Last Jedi. My mother gave me this because, that makes sense.
Well, did your mother have COVID?
No.
Because she lost her sense of taste. I mean, come on.
You're funny. Anyway, so a little bit of Star Wars news, and I'll briefly mention this just since we are reading it, because Tanner and I are currently reading the Heir to the Empire novel, the first of the Thrawn trilogy of the Legends books. How much do you have left? I have about a little over an hour.
I unfortunately have been going whole hog into the Clone Wars series, and that one's definitely taken like a backseat. But I'm going to be kicking it back up this week. Though I am curious from what you've read so far as to. I've read the book before, and I'm enjoying it, but I'm really curious what your thoughts are at this point.
I've been really enjoying it. I'm curious what this last hour. This is the end of the book. I'm curious what it's going to bring. I'm enjoying the Luke stuff. I mean, since you've read it before, I just got to where Han and Luke are prisoners together yet again. And they've re-met each other. So I'm just there. I really, really enjoy the book. Mark Thompson does a great job. I will say the only negative I have, and this is in the narration, is I can't stand. I can't remember the name of the character, but there's a Wookiee that talks and translates, and I absolutely can't stand the voiceover for it. It's not a Mark Thompson problem because it's just what the studio wants them to do for the direction, and it's too hard to do a Wookiee like that, but it is brutal to listen to. Like, it hurts my ears. It's so bad. I have to turn the volume down a bunch, but I am very much enjoying the book. It really captures the essence. I'm loving Mara Jade. She is really cool. Her backstory I really enjoyed, but yeah, I've been enjoying that book quite a bit. Almost done with it. And on top of that, so they announced that they're going to be releasing or just now some Legends books are going to be under a new banner of like the greatest Star Wars collections. So now they'll be put under this new banner where it's like, all right, this is what Lucasfilm considers the best novels that are not EU, which I like because it just brings a little bit of guidance to the chaos that is the extended universe of Star Wars and all those Legends books, because there's so much good. There is a lot of bad. And
there's a lot of bad.
They need some direction, and I think that's smart. I think it'll please some fans. So I'm here for it. I like that decision.
I don't want to be the dude that's like trying to like I cannot stand the people that talk about the Thrawn series that will just like constantly lament online of like, this is so much better. Just because the way that they bring it up is just incredibly annoying. But yeah. I must say, I still personally do think that I think I would have enjoyed if we had stuck closer to those, specifically the Thrawn trilogy, for a sequel trilogy, I think would have been a little bit more enjoyable than unfortunately what we ended up getting.
I currently am on the fence of I do not agree to that. But I don't want to really get too deep into it until I've read all 3 books. I need all 3,
Right.
because if I finish this one and then the other 2 blow my socks off, and I say no now. Right now, I'm hesitant to say that because there are other parts of the novel that I don't think would translate well to on screen. But
I'd agree with that.
But we can talk more about that when we finish the book as well, and we can get into a full review. So the other big piece of news is we got the official main cast for the Kenobi series, which we of course got. Hayden Christensen is going to be a part of it. They announced that earlier. The 2 castings that everybody was really freaking out about was Joel Edgerton as well as Bonnie PC, I think is how you say your last name, who played young Aunt Beru. So we get Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, and I'm here for it. I like that we're getting them.
the original Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, or at least from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
I know. I never actually realized that was even Joel Edgerton until I actually saw this casting, and then I was in remembering us watching Clone Wars. I was like, "Holy crap, that's Joel Edgerton!"
And Joel has turned out to be a very good director. His movie, The Gift, is very, very good, very creepy. So I don't know if I can't remember her name, Deborah Chow. If Deborah Chow is directing the entire series, but if she's bringing other directors, I hope to hear that Joel Edgerton directs an episode or 2 because he is just a talent. I mean, the man is insanely talented. I mean, just him alone. If you haven't seen the movie Warrior with Joel Edgerton and Tom Hardy, get going on it. It is so good. He's also great in The Gift. Bonnie, I don't really know a lot about. I haven't seen her in a lot of other things. So I'm curious to see where she's at. But there's some other really interesting casting. Kumail Nanjiani is going to be in this, which I am all for. Obviously, he's also going to be in Eternals, so he must have a good relationship with Disney. I think he's a very talented actor. I'm curious what his role is going to be, and I hope it's not something slapstick funny. I hope they're not trying to get a comedian funny guy and throw him in there. He's buffed up, so I kind of hope he's the villain.
They're just going to bring him in and just have him be shirtless the entire time. How good he looks. Oh my God.
I hope he plays like the second to Vader or something. Like, I hope he plays like a villain. I think that would be really cool than seeing him be a hero.
If he was some sort of Emperor's Hand agent.
Yeah. I have other thoughts on the casting, but I don't want to, step all over your toes here before we get there. So what any of the other casting you got that really captured you right away?
Indira Varma.
Yes.
I think that's how you say. Yes, I am. I'm stoked beyond belief that she's in this.
Yes.
I don't think that her character. Unfortunately, I felt like her character from Game of Thrones started off at a high point, but then just due to the writing kind of went down a little ways, and that's not her fault. I thought that she acted her pants off in those scenes.
She is great in Game of Thrones.
Yes. Oh gosh. Who else? Bonnie, Rupert Friend.
Twitter lost it for Rupert Fiend or however, but he's in some shows that I've never seen, I believe over in Europe, but Twitter lost their minds. But O'Shea Jackson, to me, is awesome. That is Ice Cube's son.
From?
That's Ice Cube's son.
Oh my God.
He plays Ice Cube in Straight Outta Compton. He is so good. I can't remember if it's I can't remember the movie he's in. He went into some big budget action movie, and I thought he did really good. I'm gonna look it up real quick. But not only him, we get our boy from the Fast and Furious franchise. We get Sung Kang to come in here. He is awesome. I love him in the Fast and Furious movies, even though those movies are cuckoo for coconuts. Let's see. He's in Godzilla King of the Monsters. O'Shea Jackson is.
Oh, nice.
He was in Just Mercy. He's just getting started really in Hollywood, but he is so good in Straight Outta Compton, and I really liked him in those other movies. He's going to be good here. I hope he plays like a smuggler or something. I think he'd be a really good smuggler. I don't know Bunny Safdie or Simone Kessel. Moses Ingram, I've seen plenty of times. She is very talented. So I love this casting. Obviously, Hayden and Ian McGregor are the big
Oh,
are the big
oh yeah.
draws. But
I'm so happy that Hayden is. I really hope that we get to see him more in the Vader outfit, because I remember specifically around the point in time of him doing Revenge of the Sith, or just the whole trilogy as a whole, of him talking about how ecstatic and how like geeked out he was to be playing Darth Vader at
yeah,
one point, and donning on the suit, and how excited he was to actually don that suit on. So I'm
yeah.
really excited to see to finally have him in the Darth Vader suit for an extended period of time.
So Hayden, he gets a lot of flack for wooden acting, but I really blame a lot of that on George. So I'm pulling up his IMDb. Um, he's not really in a whole lot. He gets little bit parts of movies I've never seen. I know Jumper was supposed to be like his big break, like after Star Wars was Jumper, and that was supposed to be like a big franchise for him, like a Bourne franchise type. And it's okay. And he's kind of like, it's a fun little movie, but he hasn't done a whole lot. He takes big breaks. I mean, he didn't have a movie from 2010 to 2014. Then he didn't have one in 2016 or 2019. I mean, outside of the voicing, really, Anakin for The Rise of
Right.
Skywalker. But I'm just excited to see what he can do with somebody who's got some talent and getting talent out of actors. Deborah Chow can direct actors. I mean, she's coming off of Breaking Bad and obviously The Mandalorian. But I believe she did another. I'm going to look it up real quick. Good thing I have my phone handy dandy. Because she, I believe, has done some other really high profile television series. Oh, so Mr. Robot, Better Call Saul, which is just pure acting. Like that's what that movie is. She did Jessica Jones, which is actually pretty good. She did do some Iron Fist, but we won't bring that up. Don't blame her for that one. She's got a lot of really good TV and really good like Emmy winning TV performances that she's gotten to direct. So I think she can get a lot out of Hayden. And obviously,
Do you have? Oh, sorry.
no,
You go ahead and finish.
You go.
Oh, I had a question for you. Do you have any? Oh, what's the best way to put this? Do you have any casting one predictions as to what characters they might possibly be? Any legacy characters? Or two, is there a type of character in the Star Wars universe that you would like to see any of these actors play?
So when you look at this cast, one thing I really like about it is there's some diversity in this cast. It's not just white men. We've got women of color, men of color, and I really like that. I don't think any of them are like none of these guys. The youngest looks like it's Benny Sarafi. I don't know how to say this, but he looks the youngest, but he's not playing like a young Luke. Like there's no way.
Right.
I don't know. It would be what might be interesting is if like I think the only thing you pull from because this takes place 8 years right after Revenge of the Sith. I thought it was 8 years.
I didn't. I'm unfamiliar if they've. Oh, the story begins 10 years after the dramatic events of
What's that
Revenge
from?
of the Sith. That is from StarWars.com.
Oh, I trust StarWars.com. Okay, so it's 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. And when is A New Hope? It's 16 years, right? Isn't Luke 16? Didn't we look that up last time? Luke is 16 when A New Hope happens.
I thought he was 20.
I swear we looked this up last time.
So you're talking about from the events of Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
I could have. It's either 18 or 20. I could have sworn that.
He's 19 years old. It says
19
was
years.
born 19 years prior to the Battle of Yavin. Therefore, he's 19 in the events of A New Hope. So 19. So it's almost a decade. I feel like we're having a flashback to this exact same conversation we did a couple episodes back. But so it's almost another decade from this on. I think there's a lot I'm expecting with this show. Like, I don't really want them to square off. I know that's everybody's wet dream is for Obi-Wan and Anakin to fight again, where it can be more polished than A New Hope, but less polished than the Mustafar battle. I don't know if it makes sense for them to actually meet each other. I'm not sure what's going to happen. If one of those actors is playing like a Padawan, like one of the younger ones, or a Jedi that is on the run and he gets word of that and he makes the decision, because there's a great novel, an Obi-Wan novel that's in the Legends that follows that storyline that I think would be really interesting, where he gets word or picks up a distress signal that he still checks. If it's 10 years before Rebels, starts 6 years before is that first season? Because they end right up to the Battle of Yavin. Because they fight in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wait.
Doesn't Hera fight in the Battle of Yavin?
I mean, like canon-wise, they threw her in with what am I thinking of? Rogue One. We see her ship there. Not only do we actually see the ship at the base of Yavin, and then we also see it show up in the Battle of Scarif. But Clone Wars ends with gosh, I'm trying to remember what the time skips were.
So this says that Rebels begins 14 years after the end of the Clone Wars, which is set 22 years, set from 22 BBY to 19 BBY. Mm-hmm. It says almost all of Rebels is set between 5 BBY, Battle of Yavin, and 0 BBY, right before Rogue One and A New Hope, with each season covering about a year in the lives of the characters. To put it another way, Rebels begins 14 years after the end of the Clone Wars. Okay, so it's 5 years before. So it'll be 5 years is when Rebels begins, and this story, there's 5 years in between that. So two things I really want that I think would be cool. If one of those guys is playing young Kanan, that would be very cool. 5 years earlier, Kanan, who's joining Hera, and that's the Jedi Obi-Wan goes to find, and instead he finds Vader if they fight. And I'm not opposed to a fight. We'll get there a little bit, but that'll be a fun discussion when we really get into A New Hope and Revenge of the Sith, when we can really dive out, because I need a good, fresh New Hope rewatch, because I know they've got some lines about, he's more man than machine. I think that's Empire, but there's a lot of talk where it doesn't really make sense that they've really seen each other. But it would be interesting to see Vader struggle with maybe he is alive. Was that Obi-Wan? It might have not been. I think that would be a lot more interesting than them squaring off. It reminds me, like, Luke in the end of The Mandalorian shows up, does all this amazing stuff, and it's an amazing scene. We thought it might happen. It did happen. But it doesn't break canon. Luke showing up doesn't break canon, as much as people are like, well, what happened to Grogu? Get out of here. It doesn't change anything in the canon. That's what Luke was doing during that timeline, was going out and finding these signals, especially if it's the Luke from right after Revenge of the Sith. So I just don't know if as long as if they fight, it makes sense. It doesn't break canon and they do it in a cool and interesting way. I'm all for it. And I am curious how they're going to age everybody up. And everyone's worried about that because Joel Edgerton and Ian McGregor have a journey that they need to go on in 20 years. Watch them put in a line where it's like, well, once you hit like 50 on Tatooine, it just kind of goes quicker. Like, watch a line like that. Like, it's the 3 suns. Like, they're going to blame the suns or something, Yeah. Like, something like that'll happen. But do you have any casting
Something thoughts? I've got a couple of casting thoughts, but this just kind of popped in my head with what you're saying of like them aging those two characters up. And something I'm slightly worried about. And I really hope they don't. I think that Ewan McGregor could pull this off, but I'm slightly worried that they're going to push him more in the direction of an Alec Guinness Obi-Wan. Like they want him to almost emulate Alec Guinness's Obi-Wan versus the younger Ewan McGregor Obi-Wan. And
Sure.
personally, I'd really like to get the younger one, even though I know it is 10 years after the events of Revenge of the Sith. Um, but it, I mean, I guess I don't know. I still think that Ewan McGregor, no matter what, is going to pull it out of the park. I just hope we don't, see him walk up on the scene being like, "Oh, hello, young Jedi. How are you doing?"
Yeah,
That lilty tone.
yeah, and he can do Alec Guinness. I mean, he did that line for Force Awakens. I've seen interviews with him where he's like, I got to channel him, and he gets in there, and he does have a little
Yeah,
bit of that Alec Guinness hint. When he talks in the prequels, especially after just watching Attack of the Clones. Like I really noticed it watching Clone Wars because I think the voice actor who plays Obi-Wan does do a great job, but I don't think
yeah,
he has that Alec Guinness in him where Ian McGregor can get that. But I'm okay if he is a little bit more as the wizard than anything else. I am excited
mhm,
for like a square off with him and Uncle Owen. I think that's definitely going to happen. Um, and those two probably I wouldn't imagine have a huge role in the film, and that's probably why they're able to get Joel Edgerton because I know the man's busy. So it's probably like,
yeah,
hey, they're in an episode or two. But yeah, it's either somebody well, they can't find him on Tatooine. He has to leave Tatooine. It makes no sense for him
right.
for anybody to show up to him. So I wonder if they do a distress signal would work. And Deborah Chow's coming right over for Mandalorian. Dave Filoni is going to be probably producing this. Like Jon Favreau is going to be on set. They're probably using the same set. I know they're filming on location in Boston as well as in Europe, but um, I think that I'm sure that they showed up on set, and I'm sure Big Daddy George came on to set a couple times and did some things. I'm sure that happened. You have any other thoughts on this?
I'm stoked. I don't know if I want to see a square off between Ewan McGregor or Darth Vader and Obi-Wan story wise, but man, like just seeing that fight scene all over again. Oh,
It just depends on how they
I'm
do it.
still gonna geek out.
Yeah,
Still gonna geek out.
just depends on how they
Um,
do it.
right.
Is what's gonna happen, and how much they're gonna bend the rules, not break the rules. Uh,
It's kind of like having Skywalker show up at the end of Mandalorian.
yeah,
It it like part of me was like, man, I really hope it was someone else, but boy, is it cool.
yeah,
uh,
yeah. I agree.
oh, what was there was something else that I was thinking about. I really also kind of hope that this, like obviously I know that this is going to mainly focus on Kenobi, but I think it'd be really cool if we also had this as an excuse to really kind of dive in what's happening with Vader as well during these years. Uh,
Yeah, I think going back and forth between the two is what's going to sell this show.
yes,
Like
I agree with that one.
if it's a distress signal, that Vader picks up on it too, and that Vader's also hunting this other Jedi down. And it'd be cool if somebody in this cast is playing a new Jedi or a Padawan or something, and that they're both going
Mhm.
after him to either save him or not, and then they either end up accidentally meeting or they just narrowly miss each other. Um,
Right.
like a moment where like Obi-Wan just barely escapes, and Vader kind of is like like that presence felt similar. Was that couldn't be?
Right.
He vanished. I mean, he knows that Obi-Wan's alive. Obi-Wan ripped his legs and arms off, and then yeeted. Like he knows he's alive.
Yeah.
He just doesn't know where. And maybe that's the direction of the show. Maybe it's going to say Kenobi and have his name all over it, but maybe really it's going to feel more like a Vader show, and it's going to be Vader's obsession with trying to find him, which I think would be interesting because he assumes he's alive. Um, which I think could be an
That'd be
interesting
cool.
take. I trust what they're going to do. I just really want to see this. It's been in development forever. I just don't get how Disney has struggled so much with some of these properties. It just makes no sense to me. But
Well, I mean, I don't know. Part of me feels like like I've really been really wanting to see this, but also on the same point in time, I understand like where some of these struggles I feel like might come from. Um, Mostly of the fact of like writing a compelling Obi-Wan story at this point in time, I think it can be a little bit of a challenge without
yeah,
like really throwing things out of whack. It's kind of like the same thing about Oh, I know for a way back when, like right as Force Awakens and everything was being released, they had like a whole cavalcade of movies that they announced that they were working on, and one of them was like a Boba Fett movie was
Yep.
in the
Josh
talks and in
Trank
the
was
works for a
supposed to
while.
direct it. They had a director
Yeah,
sign.
and that started to go through development hell and wasn't able to like the script went back and forth. I kept on hearing about. First they were having a hard time writing him as a like a hero characters, and they tried to go anti-hero. And eventually I actually think that all of that work was probably kind of like the scaffolding to create the Mandalorian is what I have it, at least in my thought,
Yeah.
and then it has eventually evolved into the Book of Boba Fett.
I know a lot of why they pulled out of that was because of the Josh Trank issues he had on Fantastic with Fox. He had a lot of issues on that
Oh,
film, directing that with some alcohol problems and studio execs interfering, causing more alcohol problems and temper tantrums and sets being ripped apart. It was that those stories are nuts.
good
But
lord.
does Yoda show up? They didn't announce Liam Neeson for Qui-Gon, but I still think Qui-Gon shows up. But do we also get Yoda, do you think?
I don't. I don't think we get Yoda.
I think we get something
I
of Yoda, whether it's
think
him
so.
sending a signal, a hologram. How does he know he's on Dagobah? All we know is that he says, I need to go into hiding, but he doesn't necessarily, we never see him tell Obi-Wan where he goes.
In Revenge of the Sith, he does.
He doesn't say, I'm going to the Dagobah system.
Yeah, I'm like 90% sure that he says at the end of that is to the Dagobah system I will go. That is where I will stay. And then he said, and then Obi-Wan says, I will go. Then I will tend to the boy on Tatooine.
Oh, mate, you might be right. Well, we'll have to find out when we do our rewatch. But I think if they either talk through the Force or maybe there's some kind of cool training that they do where once he starts being able to train more in the time and the afterlife of the Force, that maybe they do some like mental training, like some Dragon Ball Z stuff where they like fight in their heads and it gets them stronger or whatever. That'd be kind of
That'd be
cool.
cool.
All right, should we move on to the show now?
I'd say so.
All right, so Clone Wars season 1. What's there? 6 seasons? 8 seasons?
There are 7 seasons.
It's been a long time since I've watched it. These early seasons are a lot more episodes. What do you think of the first season during our rewatch?
I remember having a lower opinion on a lot of these the season 1 episodes, and I'd say it's slightly above that right now. I actually went through and like at the beginning of this was doing like a tracking of like how I would rate every single episode, and averaging it out, I think I ended up putting this season at either like a 7 or a 6.5.
Huh.
But overall, I mean, like I don't know, it's still fun to do that. There are some episodes in this where I'm like, man, that is Star Wars like to a T, and I'm absolutely in love with it. And then there are just other episodes that drag that drag the entirety of season 1 down hard,
Yeah.
really hard in my mind.
And I
What are your general thoughts?
I forget that you you just jump right into this show because you forget that you have to watch the movie to get some of this, because that's where the Grievous first shows up, Ahsoka. So if you don't watch that, which I don't because it's horrible, it's it takes you back because you get right into it. I mean, it's straight to Sky Guy and Snips. And I remember not loving Ahsoka as a kid and then growing very fond of her as I got older. And I don't really remember why. I think I was just upset by stupidity because I actually think Ahsoka in this is really good. The animation is not as great because I remember being like, the finale of Clone Wars was the first Clone Wars I'd watched in so long. But I remember being like, this looks so much worse than that. And then you get to that Jar Jar episode where it's clearly outsourced and you're like, okay, this is bad. So the first season to me is fine. A 6.5 to me is a solid rating for it. It's fun. There are some good Star Wars moments. Definitely the Anakin in this is better. Just the way he is, especially being able to go back and forth between cocky, like hero to like, this guy's going to rip your head off villain. The Padme stuff I don't love.
He's
But
also got more charisma in this as
yeah,
well. He feels like this just fun, like go get him kind of a character that
he's
has
got like
like
a
these
Big
fun little
Brother
Star
vibe.
Wars witticisms.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
Big Brother
exactly.
vibe. And
And
but
he loses the whininess. Like
yeah,
that's nowhere near as now. Granted, I think some of that also comes from the fact is like he is a general in the middle of a war. Like
yeah.
that's a stark transition from him being an aged Padawan to being a
Yeah.
Jedi Knight.
And
That
he's
is
able to just go rip people apart and feed the dark side within him because he just goes and rips droids apart. I
right,
do
right.
like the Obi-Wan stuff. My favorite episode was the one with Mace Windu trying to free everybody and those conversations. I really liked that. Um, and the
Is that
finale I
the
also liked.
Ryloth? Is that the
I
Ryloth
believe so.
episodes
It's
or
the second to
okay?
last episode.
Yes, Liberty, the Liberty of Ryloth,
Yeah.
because first they have the space battle, then
Yeah.
Obi-Wan gets shot down, and then Mace Windu goes in.
It's the
Yeah,
innocence of
good episode.
Ryloth that I like. Those last three, and then the hostage crisis, I enjoyed quite a bit. I didn't love the Padme stuff, but I enjoyed the Cad Bane stuff because he's just a really cool bounty hunter, and always
Yeah.
has been. But I think this first season is good. I mean, it's the first season of a show. The animation definitely I know is going to be getting better. And we're not
Right.
diving too much. And it's one of the things I love about Rebels is Rebels really dives into the lore of the Force. This show does it somewhat, but not a whole lot from my memory. But I
Mhm.
enjoyed it. It's a solid first season. It's good enough to keep you going as a Star Wars fan, I think. Any other thoughts you have?
Rookies was probably one. I love that episode. I really do. I think that was also one of the first episodes that really, one, it demonstrated like, oh, we're gonna get some interesting characters out of these clones.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at it, I love it because I also know where we are going with these characters. I guess from an objective point of view, you do kind of look at it and you're like, oh, these guys are kind of generic at the moment. But we know since we've watched this show that they really grow,
Yeah.
and they really grow on us as characters as well. Uh, Also, that was the first episode that I ever actually watched of this show where I was like, oh, they're going there. My God, this show can get really dark at
Yeah.
times.
Not afraid to go
um,
dark.
no. I guess of other great episodes that I really love, the entirety of the Ryloth arc, I absolutely loved.
Yeah,
Um,
I did too.
it My only criticism maybe of that was there was the space battle that they had to like break the blockade to get the ships to land on the Ryloth. Um, I really wish that they kind of leaned a little bit more into like we see Ahsoka get shaken after she loses some of the people under her command when they get like absolutely crushed by the blockade and then they fly back to the ship. I really wish that we had kind of seen a little bit her be a little bit more shaken, I guess, in that moment. But
Yeah.
overall, it's still a really fun uh that whole arc is just really fun. Hostage Crisis with Cad Bane is amazing. I cannot stand the Blue Shadow Virus episodes. I was
I agree.
not a
I
huge
really
fan of
liked the
those ones.
hidden enemy. I liked the clones going through and finding a spy in
Yes.
their ranks. I liked that one, but then it follows with the blue shadow virus, and it wasn't great. There's a lot of kid stuff in this first season too, and as much as I
Right.
liked Ahsoka, she got some of that kid stuff. Like they're like and I guess it is playing into it. Like there are moments I'm sitting there and it's like, all right, I'll let a 12-year-old Anakin fly a pod race, but it's like, are we? And
Right.
then Ahsoka's also out there dominating. It's like, man, kids just dominate in this world. Like it's insane. Like she's just amazing. But there are
Slap a 12-year-old in a cockpit. What could go wrong?
yeah, but there are some of that kid stuff. But there's some good
uh,
stuff.
Oh, dude, Hondo? Like, we get the
Yeah,
introduction of Hondo in this series, and I like no matter what, like, even though the episodes, like in general, I thought were middling, I just every single time Hondo's on screen, I feel like he just eats it up. He's like the Jack Sparrow of this Star Wars universe, and I just love that.
yeah, I
Uh,
agree. I
and
like Hondo. Cad Bane really
But
steals the end of the season. Like, it made me excited for season 2. Like, not thinking about like,
Mhm.
what do I remember coming ahead? Just like, if I was a kid, I try to put myself in the mindset of me 12 years old watching this, being like, if that was the end of the season, and you know, I'm just getting into hard anime and television and things like that, I'm sitting there being like, wow, I really want to see what they're going to do with that bounty hunter. Like, I want to see more of this
right.
guy. Um,
Layer of Grievous was also pretty fun as well.
yeah, getting a
Not
calamari,
amazing, but
Mon
it was fun.
Calamari Jedi.
Oddly enough, I thought I was really down. At first I was like, oh boy, here we go. First episode of the season. I know this is going to be a little rough, but man, I actually really enjoyed the episode with Yoda doing the, like,
Yeah.
bringing the clones around. It did, again, felt a little kiddie, but I mean, just, we see the wisdom and the fun of Yoda in that episode on Toydaria, and it's a lot of fun.
Flushes out. We don't think about that as much with Clone Wars, but it flushes out Yoda. Because you don't think Yoda
Yeah.
really needs fleshing, but he gets a lot without giving a lot, if that makes sense.
Some criticism for certain episodes that I really need to level, though. I was a big fan of the Malevolence arc for the first two episodes of that 3-episode arc, and then the third episode with Padme getting sent into the middle of a war zone.
Ugh.
I was like, really?
The Padme stuff is hard, and it's hard. Like, coming off of to me in this first season, Padme does not get a lot of justice. I don't, it's not the voice actor, it's just the way they write her. And reading those novels where they do Padme so much justice, it's brutal coming right off of this, where Padme is not getting a whole lot of justice, because she just kind of is there. She's there to be a female hero, like, they're just shoving her forward instead of just giving her good writing, which would then make her what she is, which is an amazing female hero. You know what I mean? Like, they force it a little bit. The Jar Jar stuff sucks too. I couldn't stand it.
I was totally going to bring that up. Is she feels ham-fisted?
Yeah.
In this whole season, and it's like, none of this feels natural. Like, I get that she is a very adventurous, like, I'm gonna come in here and I'm going to solve all of these problems on my own, because that's the kind of character I am. And I don't care what anyone else around me is going to say. I'm going to do the right thing. But they just put her in these situations that just feel so, I don't know, just out of place of where you feel like she would be as a character. Also, not to mention, they happen to tag along Jar Jar almost on all of the episodes that she's in. And
it's clear.
So bad.
As much as I love the Darth Jar Jar theory, I love that theory. And when we finish this rewatch, we should do a discussion on that theory. Just watch the 30-minute video that got popular. But I love it. I think it's fun. I think it's where Star Wars comes into fun theories. But you can tell from George's Clone Wars show that Jar Jar was never meant to be anything more than the fool. And that's what he is. He is so bad in this show. Like, I don't even think my younger self would enjoy him. Like, I'm curious to show those clips to the 6-year-olds I teach and see if they find them funny. Because I watch Avatar: The Last Airbender with them right now, and they die at the humor, and I die at the humor, because it's really funny and clever and interesting. But the Jar Jar stuff's brutal, and it's a different voice actor, and you can tell hard. And the Jar Jar stuff really sticks out in a poor way. And that one episode is so bad. It's one of the worst episodes of television I honestly think I've ever seen, that outsourced one. I hated it.
I'm trying to remember specifically what the outsourced one is.
It was like 4 or 5. It was early.
So I
think
remember
it was the downfall of a droid.
So Jar Jar wasn't in that one, but Downfall of a Droid and Duel of the Droids was atrocious.
Those are it, and then Bombad Jedi is the one I didn't like with him. And I don't think that's outsourced, but the others are outsourced, and it's awful.
Oh my god. It's the Downfall of a Jedi is like, the animation is off. Everybody, it feels like someone just went into animation with these puppets and then just moved them in these like particular manners to like, they felt like robots that were moving around like, I am human, yay!
Yeah.
And I mean, the voice acting's fine, but just the animation and oh my god, the music choices that they decide to go with that episode or those 2 episodes is
So bad.
I don't get it, because like we get these awesome. I love the Clone Wars soundtrack. I think that it does great service towards the other scores that John Williams has put in, and we get a good one in Ambit in the first episode, the whole Malevolence, the rookie episode. And then all of a sudden we get into the middle of the the first part of the season with Downfall of a Droid, and it gets into this weird, like, almost like house trap beat as they're like flying through space and in these action scenes, and you're like, who in their right mind decided, like, we're gonna do these epic, like, overtures and then go to a house trap beat all of a sudden? And it's like, it's just it's so at odds with itself.
Yeah.
I
have a question for you real quick.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. I'm curious if you know. Did Clone Wars get canceled, or did it never get its final season when Lucasfilm was acquired by Disney? And they
it was canceled on Cartoon Network.
Okay.
And then once it was moved to Netflix, it exploded in popularity from that point, and then that's when they released season 6 on Netflix. Was a lot of like
I remember
unfinished episodes that they moved onto there, and then once it got moved to Disney Plus, they realized, oh my god, people really love the Clone Wars, and so they did a season 7. There was I don't remember if it was D23 or Star Wars Celebration where they released, or they did an entire panel of like the early version of the Bad Batch. I think it was Celebrations. I remember watching that and I was like, man, we didn't get that. Come on.
Yeah. That's right. I forgot, because this show, like, after this first season, I'm sitting there thinking, like, I get if you, and I again, I don't fully remember, but I don't remember the inconsistency with the episodes, but I mean, it got canceled. It wasn't getting views on network television. And yes, streaming obviously really, really helped it. And I'm glad we got the final season to actually like finish the show. But I mean, they struggled. But then again, Avatar: Last Airbender was canceled during the writer's strike. And then came back. So you never know why things happen the way they do.
I'm in the midst of it's just amazing to me how season 1 it's just a very average hitter, but then all of a sudden we jump into season 2, and I'm 8 episodes into season 2 at this point.
Wow.
And my god, the jump in writing, the jump in animation, all of it. It is just eons compared to season
I'd love
1.
to know what changes. Like, was it that George took a step back and Dave took over? Did George actually end up getting more control and power? Like, I'm just curious what happened. But I do want to ask you, because there was another piece of news we just blew over that you just reminded me of. We got a Bad Batch trailer. We haven't even talked about it.
Yes, we did!
So, because I felt like we were kind of getting to the end there of the Clone Wars discussion. Do you want to just, do you have anything else to say about it, or should we just end the show with Bad Batch?
Overall, average hitter of a season, but once you get towards the end of the season, really enjoy it.
Much better, yeah, I agree. So, Bad Batch, we get the trailer. Well, Tanner, what were your thoughts?
Oh, dude, I'm so stoked. I'm so excited to see where we're gonna go with that. Oh god, now I'm trying to recall everything that we saw in that one. So there's a female character called Omega that's introduced in that trailer. And the theory floating around it is that she's a clone. And I'm really curious what that's going to be.
Like, is she a female clone that they, like, you know, one of the Camino, how do you say it? Kaminoans? Kaminoans, that they had a little accident with the chromosomes and accidentally made a clone female. That'd be interesting.
Yeah. I have no idea. I almost wonder if it's like the whole. We know that by the time, because of Jango Fett dying, that the line, or the genetic line of code for that is being worn thin by that point in time, and that's actually how we get rookies. So it makes me wonder if, like, at this point in time, if it was it intentionally swapped, or was it just the genetic code is starting to get just weaker and weaker, and then after a point in time, it produced a female clone.
Yeah,
I'm wildly interested to see where that's going
I
to go.
am too. And I thought the whole time when they announced Bad Batch, I was like, man, that sounds really interesting. But I don't know if I always was hesitant because it was like, I don't know if I want a show of just these guys going off and doing clone missions during the Clone Wars. And just never in my head did I
Mhm.
ever sit back and go, what if it's after the Clone Wars? And the show opens with Tarkin coming out and talking about this clones as they are transitioning the clones out, basically. They're basically just using the
Mhm.
last they have as they build their new army. And, we can give the sequels as much flack as we want, but like I like the line where in Force Awakens where Kylo says, well, maybe we should consider a clone army. Like your men aren't getting it done. Maybe that's what we need. And I like that's still in play and that there's this group that is so cuckoo for coconuts. And we got to figure out because they all have chips in them, right? That's to be controlled. Isn't that what it is? They have chips that then get removed. I believe that because that's the end of the thing. She removes one of the chips from him, from Rex.
Oh. Well, so yeah, I mean, like, so they all have the control chips that are implanted in their brain, and
So are the
I
Bad
wonder
Batch
if
just so cuckoo that their chips don't work, or did they get them removed? Like that's what I'm curious to see. Because they're gonna start probably on the Empire side, and then they get a little too cuckoo with their
Mhm.
personalities because they're defective, and then eventually, but they're obedient. So eventually, somebody's got to get it out. Um,
Dude, I got a wish for this show, and I know that it's not going to come true. But um, did you ever play the entire campaign for the old 2000? What was it? 2006 Star Wars Battlefront 2,
I didn't play
where
the
you
full campaign because I played it at a friend's house,
Oh,
but I
okay.
played a lot of
So
it.
you run through as like the 501st as oh my god, I'm completely forgetting the name of the actor that plays Jango Fett and Boba Fett.
Just keep going. I don't remember either.
Anyways, I don't remember his which is a shame because I love him. But so he's going through and voicing the entire that entire campaign for all of your cutscenes as you go from starting at like the beginning of what's happening in the Clone Wars, and you
Tamara
go all the way
Morrison.
through
Tamara
to Tamir
Morrison.
Morrison. There we go. He's voicing everything, and I love it. But as you go through the campaign, it swaps. It goes into Revenge of the Sith, and then goes through the entire swapping from the Republic to the Empire, and then the campaign ends with you at you defeating the rebels at Hoth, and with him thinking like, "Oh, we won," and we let out a cry as the rebellion was finally crushed. But there's a mission with the transfer of the Empire as you are going and taking care of like other cells of the Separatists and fighting against them. But then at one point in time, you go through and fight the Kaminoans, because what the Kaminoans do is they end up cloning, and they don't like what the Empire has become, and they end up cloning an army of their own to fight back against the
Yeah,
Empire.
I'm remembering bits and pieces of this.
And boy, if I know it's not going to happen, but if there was some Republic sympathizers amongst the Kaminoans that got with the Bad Batch and they created their own clone group to then fight against the Empire, and then the Empire comes in to crush that rebellion, oh, I'd love it. I would absolutely love it if
I
that
wonder
happened.
if the Bad Batch joins a group like Saw Gerrera.
He is showing up,
I
if
know.
I'm not mistaken.
I'm pretty sure that
he's
was
in the
him in the
trailer, right?
trailer. Isn't that a young
Yeah.
him? Because that would make sense. Like, it doesn't make sense for them to join the rebellion, but to join a cuckoo for coconuts guy like Saw Gerrera makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So that would be cool, and I'm excited to see Saw in this show as well in Clone Wars,
Yeah.
just to get introduced to him young again before he gets a little too cuckoo. But the trailer's awesome. I love the angle of going after that. Like, I'm not sure exactly when it takes place, but just going after Revenge of the Sith and the takeover instead of being before Revenge of the Sith, I think is really interesting. And I wonder if like a guy like Rex might show up or something, because we know that they're out there.
He was in the trailer.
He was?
Yeah, Rex and the Bad Batch are all in the trailer as they're like walking over some hill, and then Rex happens to be in the trailer.
I don't remember that. That's awesome. I'm excited to see that. Yeah, I just want to see where they go with this. and the team that
Yeah.
Dave Filoni has left in charge of them. I'm curious because the Rebels was so good, and then they've doing the Star Wars Resistance, which I've tried to watch, and it's 2 kids, 4 kids for me. It's too much. It's clearly just for kids. So getting the team to do something like this, I think is going to be a lot more fun. I think the Bad Batch is going to be cool. And isn't it? It's on May 4th, so it's next month. Is the first episode, right?
Yes. That is correct.
That'll be awesome.
Oh,
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm so stoked for that. Is there any particular things that you like, wish list things that you're looking for from the series?
Not really from the Bad Batch, because they're just so brand new. And, I don't know what I'm getting with a show about clones. There's no Jedi. There's no nothing. If I could really get anything, I just want to see a lot of the politics and the transition between the Republic to the Empire, because he just takes over the Senate and becomes all powerful. And I want to see like what that transition really is like. I'd like to hear the things like, we need this many Star Destroyers, we need people occupied here, here, and here, started this world, and the Bad Batch just kind of being a part of that, I think is what'll fuel me. And I'd like to see a little bit, because we haven't really dove into this time, a little bit of the anti-Jedi propaganda, because we know that the Empire pushed so much. Jedi don't actually exist. They never did. There were never any saviors. It was always meant to be this way. You should fear Vader. Like, I want to see some of that, like, fear mongering from the Empire, and the Bad Batch being just kind of front and center of that. You have anything?
Yeah. Just super stoked about it. If there's something, I love the story that they do with Rebels, but if I really love the animation that they get for Clone Wars, and I'm so stoked that they're bringing that original animation from Clone Wars and they're transferring it into the Bad Batch. I wasn't as big a fan of the animation that we get in Rebels. It's really rounded and a little soft. They take some of the art direction in areas that I'm not as crazy about, whereas the Clone Wars animations, I love and I die for. So I'm just so stoked to be watching that all over again.
Yeah, I agree. Anything else, or should we end this show?
I think that's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to another Happy Landing. We just had another Happy Landing. Thank you to the Movie Meal patrons again. Go get some merch. Everything's linked in the description. We're on to season 2. We'll probably be done with the book, I'm guessing, by next week. We're pretty much done. And we'll have a lot of more fun stuff to talk about. So yeah, for another Happy Landing, we are out of here.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.